Here are 5 common drawing difficulty areas and 5, I think, very easy ways to really knock these problems on the head. And what they all have in common is they're a way of practicing just the skill that we want to develop for each of these problems without the overhead of doing the rest of the drawing. So let's look at the first one. And that's when my buildings or other significant shapes are out of proportion. I might have a building that's a long, narrow shape, and my building ends up being fatter, not long and narrow enough, or out of proportion in some other way. Here are a couple of ways you can make a really easy drawing practice with just this skill. Find a reference that has a part of it that you can draw quite simply and with some sort of rectangular shape. Now, it might be a larger building, but you might just be drawing the space between 2 columns. Put the reference to the side, and then next to it, try and draw the basic rectangle shape actual size. Now, when you've done it, you can measure your height and your width and compare it with the height and the width of the reference, because remember, you're trying to draw it the same size. Now, if, however, your height is about 10% more and your width is about 10% more, that's okay because you've kept the proportions the same. This shape should look the same shape as in the reference, although slightly larger or slightly smaller. But by just doing the basic rectangle shape that we have in our reference, or we could draw just the outline of a building and keeping a sample that is a rectangle, because height to width is the easiest proportion to start with, to practice, to get right. We can just work on that skill of firstly observation, because we can't draw proportions accurately that we haven't seen. We've got to learn to look for the width in relation to the height in our reference, and then we have to develop the skill of estimating those in our drawing. And I often find putting in little dots where I think the other side or the other height or depth is going to be before I then put the line there. That helps me just visualize the line there and think, is that going to look right or not? And if I get it correct, if I get the proportions correct, just working on the proportions without the rest of the drawing, if I want, I could add a bit more of the drawing. But what I suggest is to then repeat it, but maybe at a larger or smaller size. Or find another reference with a similarly rectangular shape and seek to just draw that shape and get the height to width ratio, proportion, correct. By just focusing on the bit we're getting wrong consistently, we can work consistently at getting just that part correct. And then when we do another scene, we're not going to have this weakness detracting from the other parts of drawing that we can do better. It's a great learning technique to work on a particular area intensely until we've, if not mastered it, certainly become more comfortable, become better at doing it. Second area, if you can't draw a straight line for as long and as straight as you would like to, as you need to, here's a great practice exercise to do. Instead of trying to draw a long straight line that's going to be longer than you can control for the length of the line, just draw a shorter one that you can manage that length. Take the pen off, give your hand a shake, and then look at the end of that shorter section. Bring your pen down, because what we're going to do is we're going to do another line next to it. Now, what I like to do is to eyeball the line I've drawn so that my pen is ready to continue that straightness of line. And then the important thing is to really look hard to see where the end is and to bring my pen, in this case with ink, as close to it as I can without actually touching the paper. I don't want to join up, because if I join the end of the line I've already drawn, I'm going to get a blobby ink overlap. What I want to do is to start a new line with the smallest gap of white between them that I can control. And then I want to be touching that point with my pen as I continue the line. And if need be, I can stop and repeat for as long as I have to get the length of line that I need for my drawing. This may feel a bit strange to do at the start, but it actually can result in very long straight lines. And again, we can practice just this skill on its own which means that we can improve very rapidly in a small amount of time because we're really focusing on the one skill we want to improve on. This third area is a biggie, and that's I don't know what direction to crosshatch. I have trouble knowing how to crosshatch for a particular part of my drawing. Now, this is a really great exercise if this is a problem for you. And it involves getting the sort of scene that we would normally draw. And not too large, but large enough that we can do crosshatching to draw an outline of this scene. Just an outline, only as much detail really as we need. Because what I'm going to do is that I'm going to stop the drawing when I've just done the outline. I'm going to photograph it, print off 4 or 5 or 6 copies. And now I'm going to start the hatching part of the drawing, going back to my reference. What I've got is a template. I have an outline to apply the hatching to, but I can experiment because I'm not going to be afraid of messing up my outline, of messing up what I've already done, which often is very counterproductive if we feel that way in learning to experiment in the way we need to experiment to discover the right way of hatching, because there is no correct way. One of the weaknesses of many hatching videos is to say, this is the way you should be hatching. No, the only right way to hatch is the one that creates the effect that you want in this particular drawing. So we can really work on that, on learning how we can explore marks, in learning how different shape marks or different direction marks look in different parts of a drawing if we're not bothered with having to draw the building, the scene over and over again. We can just work on the hatching, and that rapidly speeds up the number of times we can experiment, see the result, think, is that what I want? Maybe if I try it darker, maybe if I try the lines in a different direction, maybe if I follow the curve of the underlined form or whatever, we can explore different possibilities, see the result, make choices for how we might choose to do it in the next drawing. This, I think, is really the only way we can learn what direction to hatch in. It's by working out what creates the effect we want. And this is the fastest way to do it because it lets us just focus on the hatching over and over again. And by using the same outline, the same scene, we can really compare the results, the effect of the differences far more easily, and therefore more easily make a decision what suits the type of drawing we're wanting to create. If you haven't seen my video on 10 different ways to crosshatch, or really it's 10 different ways we can use crosshatching, I'll make that the link at the end of this video, because it will certainly give you ideas of the possibilities with hatching, the sorts of ways we can use them in our drawing, and I think that really helps us work out what direction we want to make the lines and what sort of effects we're trying to create with them. This next problem in drawing is I can't get my perspective angles correct. The way when a building is sloping away from us, the horizontal lines start to angle. If this is a problem for you, let me explain a great way we can just focus on improving that skill. And that's to look at my reference and next to it to simply draw the simplest outline of the overall shape. Now, I'm assuming most of this is going to be architecture, and so there's probably going to be a fundamental box structure. And then there's going to be some horizontal elements, whether they're cornices or whether they're rows of windows that create a bit of a line top and bottom if there's a lot of them close together, things like that. What we need to do is to simply draw the outline. And again, if we try and draw it same size as our photo, that's going to make things a bit easier. But it's not as necessary in this as in the first one. We just draw the box and we seek to draw those angles, top and bottom angles, as accurately as possible. And then we look at the main angles in between and we seek to draw those lines in as well. And what we're working on is eyeballing the angle in our reference and then seeking to draw a line that captures that angle accurately. And then it's a simple case of putting them side by side, lining them up so they're both horizontal, and sliding a ruler from the photo at that angle across on top of that line in our drawing. And if they match up, we know we've got the angle correct. If we don't, then we know that we have to correct the angle either up or down, depending which way our error is. Again, this is a great way to concentrate on just the skill we're not developed yet enough for the sorts of drawings we want to do, of observing the angle and then being able to turn that into ink marks on the paper. And again, when I'm doing this, I often put a dot where I think the angle's going to be, and that lets me look at that and draw the line in my imagination on the paper, cross-check with my photo, and then if I think, yeah, that looks like it's in the right place, I can draw the line in. Sometimes I'll move the dot up or down slightly and then draw it in. In the end, it's discovering whatever works for us to get our lines, our perspective angles, accurate. And the other thing this lets us do is to make sure that all of our angles follow the fan pattern. That as the angles go up away from eye level, they do keep increasing. As they go down below eye level, they keep increasing. I have several perspective video playlists with more on that. But for just developing the skill of seeing the angle and then being able to accurately put that on the paper, this is a great little practice exercises to quickly do over and over again. And again, I would suggest if my first effort isn't very accurate, I keep doing that same example over and over again until I do get it accurate, because it should become easier on the second or third or fourth attempt. And when I can get that one correct, it's time to start with a new one. And I would also recommend starting with buildings where the perspective angles aren't too extreme. Start with ones that are less and then go to these ones when we can get the lesser ones accurately drawn. And this final one, do you have a problem that in your drawings, when you look at them, it looks like different parts have been drawn by different people? There's no consistency in the mark making, in what's been put on the paper. It looks like a little bit of something by someone, a little bit of something by someone else, a little bit of something by someone else. And there's no real sense of a coherent style. If this is your problem, then let me make a suggestion. Now, this practice will take a little bit longer than the others, but it's to make sure that you draw in one session. Part of the thing that counts against developing a style is if I do a little bit of a drawing on one day, and then I come back the next day or perhaps the next week and I start another part, and then there's a bit of a break. What this does is we lose all of the momentum that we've built up in our observation, in our thinking, in our mark making, and it's like we come back and start a different drawing when we start another session. And that's going to count against trying to develop a coherent style. The other thing I really suggest that you do is that you have a set time to finish. And I would make it like 15 minutes, well, that's probably a bit short, but 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 60 minutes, definitely no more than 90 minutes at this stage, because then it's starting to take too long to do for a practice exercise. So probably 60 minutes or less. Have a set time that you work towards, because putting a little pressure on yourself to finish does keep you at a regular pace, at a regular rhythm. And what we need to do if we don't feel our drawing has a consistent style is to work out a way of developing a rhythm, a pace, a tempo in our drawing. Because it's not so much the lines or marks that we've learned to put on the paper that works out the style, but it's the rhythm of our putting them on the paper in a continuous, ongoing way, where we put starting marks and we build on them and we build on them and we build on them, and we start in a focal point and we move out where perhaps we go from more detailed, a bit tighter, to less detailed, a bit looser in our marks and in the detail that we draw. And then at the end, we look at the overall drawing and we work out, does this look the way I want? What adjustments can I make to really bring out whatever it was in the reference I was hoping to capture? These things develop a sense of consistency and coherency in our drawing. And we lose them if we don't let that rhythm, that tempo, go from the start of the drawing to the end of the drawing. And if you've never tried it, try it for 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 drawings. Keep them short and see if you don't start to get a consistency that really works, that really counts towards the drawing, looking, well, a whole lot more professional perhaps than what you've been doing. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. Look, these are 5 common problem areas. I hope these 5 ways you can practice just those areas really helps your overall drawing improvement. But in the end, whatever issues you do or don't have, and however you draw, make sure you have fun. But I know I always have more fun if I feel like my drawings have succeeded more for what I was aiming for. But anyway, I'll see you next time. Bye.